Hi guys, PJ here, today taking a look at the PC release of Lords of the Fallen 2023 one. It's a modern game, it's a Souls-like game, it looks pretty good, but does it stutter, does it have problems on PC? Well, my initial findings are no, it does not stutter, so we can run forward in this game without it doing the obligatory stutter and step problem that we see in a lot of games these days, which is good news. We are testing this on a GTX1660 Ti, 6GB card, so it's an old card now, lower end if you like, but you know, we want to see how it runs. This game does support AMD FSR and a few other bits and bobs to help your frame rate on it. As you'll see on the left hand side of the screen, we've got a readout showing all sorts of stuff from frame rate to CPU usage to memory usage and GPU memory usage. So hopefully that's helpful for you to gauge whether it will run on your system. Now this graphics card is not RTX, so obviously it doesn't have DLSS, which is a massive help. Although I do feel that developers are now leaning on that a lot rather than optimizing their games, which is a bit of a shame. The game itself puts you into character selection and customization, which is pretty extensive. I was quite impressed with this. I'm not here to review the game. I am here to show you the settings options and basically do a quick performance test of how it runs. But, you know, covering the basics here might be of help to somebody who's thinking about buying the game or not buying the game. Well, my recommendation, if you're into Souls games, hack and slash, explore, dungeons, you know, that type of thing, yeah, it's for you. It's certainly not my type of game. I absolutely suck at this type of game, if I'm completely honest with you. I run away from them and they're not me. But it does look good, and from what I've gathered from people that do play this type of game, it's a good game. There you go. It's not a review, it's just what I've heard. This was an odd thing. I turned the guy's skin to green, but his shorts turned green as well. Strange, don't know if that was meant to happen. Anyway, not found any other bugs. Let's get into the graphics and options and sound and all the rest of it settings, see what the game's got. First up, we'll go into display options. Display options and graphics options are obviously the biggie. The odd thing with this game is I couldn't get it go down lower than 720p, so that is its minimum res, guys. It goes all the way up to 4K, not a problem, but you know, 720p is its lowest. You've got a resolution scale. On 50% it looked really blocky, you could tell it was doing it. 85% seems to be a nice amount. You could still see the detail, it wasn't too bad. Bearing in mind we are only on 1080p here, so we're on HD, but it's a pretty low res by today's standards. Like I say, you've got the AMD reflex in there, you've got HDR on and off. Now I've got it turned off on Windows by default because it, to be honest, doesn't work very well. And we have our AMD FSR, which is high performance, quality, you can turn it off altogether, the usual stuff. Yeah, I normally leave it on quality because I tend to find that AMD FSR, as opposed to DLSS, looks sort of fuzzy, has a glow around the edge of everything, not a nice look. So I leave it on quality if at all, if possible, turn it off altogether. Auto detect for this graphics card is low across the board, or off, so it's pretty taxing. It's you know, it's using not a lot of VRAM, but it is maxing the card out. So as we'll see when we get to actual gameplay, you know, the game certainly, it looks nice. It does look nice, but it's quite heavy on the old graphics card. We can get it to run better than this. So I do some, if you like, optimized settings that work well with this particular graphics card. So yeah, sound is stereo. There's no surround sound again. A lot of games are missing that out nowadays. It's not critical, but if you have got it hooked up to 5.1 or 7.1, etc., you know, you're wasting your time. Sadly, it's not going to. I was hoping the atmospheric surroundings were going to be around you because, you know, it is very atmospheric, but sadly not. Controller, yep, Xbox Series controller there, or DualShock if you want. DualShock also works on it. Keyboard, mouse bindings. There you go. They're in front of you. You can change every single one of them should you wish. So overall, not bad. Not the best array of adjustments and settings that you could have, but not bad. Let's have a look at some gameplay on these low settings. This is right at the start of the game. And for low settings, I didn't think it looked bad. It's using 3.6 gigabytes of VRAM, 94% of the GPU, and what, 9.5 gigabytes of normal RAM. So we get an FPS in the 70s, 80s. Sometimes it peaks up a little bit more than that. Image quality I thought was fair. CPU, this is a Ryzen 2800, so it's a 6-core 12-thread CPU, but it is old now. You know, like I say, this is not a top performance system. I feel a lot of benchmarks are done on, you know, modern high performance stuff. Not everybody's got that, not everybody can afford that. You know, so I try and balance my benchmarking on a couple of different systems. And this one, I thought, seeing as it's taxing, we'll go for the lowest denominator, the 1660 Ti. Now then, the game itself has a photo mode, which you can see now, and it is a good photo mode. It's got a lot of options. So if you're into taking your on-screen photos, you know, sharing them on Twitter, social media, etc., this is good. Very impressive, very easy to use the focus, etc. Now, the other thing with the game, when you first start it, it has a very disruptive tutorial. Don't get me wrong, tutorials are a good thing, but this thing literally stops your gameplay and tells you what you've got to do on a screen. It doesn't flow with the gameplay, and I find it quite irritating. So you may want to turn off tutorial, go to your settings, go to gameplay, turn off the tutorial. It was really annoying. But anyway, here's your low settings. Like I was saying, you saw the FPS there, 70s, 80s, etc. Let's put it on full ultra, which is probably asking way too much even at 1080p, without AMD FSR on, and well, see what it sort of does to it, basically. So there's full ultra. We've pretty much halved our frame rate. Standing still, you're at 42, 40, 41. Looks a lot nicer, yes. VRAM, we're at 4.7, well over 4.7 gigabytes of VRAM. The GPU is maxed out. The CPU is doing all right, to be honest. It's, you know, coping with it admirably. In fact, these old Ryzens do seem to do okay on a lot of games still, because that's quite handy. We're on 9.5 gigabytes of normal RAM, and there's an example of the really annoying tutorial that keeps cutting in and stopping your gameplay. It's handy, but believe me, it gets tiresome. So if you want to lock this to 30 FPS and stick the quality to max, because we're on 85% at the moment of the resolution. If you put it to 100, so you get full 1080p, 30 FPS, ultra settings, you can lock it to 30 and play it at 30 and it will look very nice. Stick VSync on, no problems with it whatsoever. It was very impressive. However, we are looking for sort of an optimization settings where you don't lose much quality, but the game still looks nice and plays well. Well, we can get nearer 60. Let's have a look. You tend to find in a lot of games the most intense things are going to be shadows, volumetric lighting, and a lot of the time your graphics detail, you're going to have it on ultra there. You're not going to notice any difference if you pop it down to high. It saves quite a lot of resources. But you can see where we're going with this. We've done the view distance down, you know, we don't need it on maximum. We've tiled the shadows down. We've got some mediums going on there, and we've also got reflection quality down to medium. Reflections, again, are a high hit on the GPU, so you want to try and sort of lower that across the board so the GPU can cope better with, well, you know, the game without making it look a blocky mess. So this does dip below 60, these settings, but these are sort of the best I could find with it looking nice and playing nice. Most of the time we're above 60. Sometimes it's the high 50s, but generally speaking, it does the job. You've got 92% of the GPU being used there and up to 95, so it's nearly maxed. It's running as, you know, as good as it can do, sort of thing. We're on what, 4.1 gigabytes of VRAM and 9.4 gigabytes of normal RAM. So if you've got an 8 gigabyte computer, guys, it's upgrade time, I'm afraid. You finally got to do it. You know, you can't put it off any longer. Game looks nice. Like I say, I'm just showing you the tutorial prompts. They're annoying. And even me, who doesn't play a Souls game at all, I turned them off because they were really annoying. Now let's add AMD FSR. So if we can just keep this above 60, because it does keep dropping to, like I say, 50s. It's quite playable, quite smooth, not a problem. Stick it on quality, stick AMD FSR on. We've got 85% resolution quality there, and we've got the sort of default recommended settings that I think work. Well, it definitely looks fuzzier. If you look at his sword around the edge, it's sort of flickering away, and it is very noticeable when you're playing the game, very sort of eye-catching. So in my opinion, it's a bad thing. It just doesn't seem as refined as DLSS for some reason. They seem to still need to, you know, get there a bit with it. It's better than nothing, but it's not brilliant. So still in the 50s here for gameplay. Not ideal. I'll probably turn it back off again in all honesty. Just quickly before we sort of wrap this up, we'll stick it on full low, and we've got the AMD FSR on 85% res. How does it work? Actually, not really any better if I'm honest with you. You got 60s FPS there, but we're on low settings. We're still on 3.6 gigabytes of VRAM, roughly 85% GPU. So in this case, AMD FSR isn't actually working. It's not really helping us out in any way. It's definitely a sort of turn it back off option if I'm honest. We'll quickly pop it on sort of medium across the board and see how that runs, but again didn't have much luck overall, and like I say, 50% res is a bit of a blocky problem. It's not nice. So there's medium, general medium settings across the board. We're up to 4 gigabytes of VRAM, 60 FPS ish if you like. It still looks nice, it does the job. CPU, is on idle. That's it, guys. That's the best I can do for you. Hopefully that was helpful. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.